Owl, for those of you who like the feel and the smell of a printed book, Soul Searching is available in the paperback edition. So check out the Guardbridge website for those details. I'll also post on my social media about that. So the chapter that the chapter that I'm going to read from today is early on in the book, chapter 1. I'm going to go from one character's point of view into another character's point of view, starting with Angel, Mark Haddon. He's in the screen room. He's exhausted. He's trying to get hold of Ruth. Ruth, when we get to her, she's in the aftermath of the crime scene itself and dealing with her own stuff there. So I'll go from Mark into Ruth. You'll see where that fits together. So I'm reading from the Kindle edition. Let's get into this. In one goose-bumped instant, Mark's heavy-set frame was depleted and fragile, as if a wave of electricity had left his body. A surging tide of nausea rose from deep within him, but a quick, strong breath kept it down. He inhaled again. He didn't have time to look back at the room, at the rest of the squad. The disappointment was thick in the air. Or was that his own? "She's gone, Ruth," said Mark. "She looks like she's heading straight for heaven." He drew a deep breath as he continued to follow the red dot across the screen. "I think she'll need it after what she's been through," he whispered to himself. He pressed his earpiece in his ear. No response. "Hicks," he said sternly. "Did you hear me? She's gone, damn it. Respond." Nothing came through his earpiece. "Banks, do you read me at least?" "Yeah, Angel," came the breathless response. "I read you." "Where the hell's Ruth?" snapped Mark. She was ahead of me." "Ruth Hicks, come in. It's over." "I think give her a few minutes, Angel." "I need a status ASAP, Banks," replied Mark. "Get back to me in a few then." He sat down on one of the desks, still monitoring the screen. That was it. They had come close but not close enough. They'd missed saving the victim and their chance in getting at the killer. He was still out there. Square one, another dead Vic, another floating soul, an elusive green dot out there that they couldn't latch onto. He watched the red dot gathering speed, already out of hell and nearly through purgatory, on its way to heaven, and maybe even to the beyond, if it was lucky. "Angel," came the soft voice in his ear. "Hicks," said Mark, jumping off the table. "You okay?" "No, but I've finished up here," she replied. "Can you please respond to me when I call you next time, damn it?" He responded calmly. "Sorry, Angel. I found her just after you made the call, and I had to be with her. I felt she needed to be guided out." "Okay, just let the docs come in and record the scene. We need all the clues we can get out there." "Tracker team?" "Sir," came the multiple responses. "Back to the station ASAP and up here in the room of ours for the debriefing," he ordered. "Sir," came the responses. Nearly no sleep for 3 days dawned on his body all at once. The pain in his shoulders broke through his nervous system and shot a red flag up the back of his neck, a power surge of pain. Bent over the desk, he rubbed weakly at the rhythmic beat in his temples. He should have been quicker. 5 minutes could have made the difference. The trackers were all trained emergency medical technicians. Part of their gear, tucked into their cargo pockets, were medic tools. They had the means to resuscitate someone on the brink of death. As he made his way up the incline of the room to the water cooler, he played the day through his hazy mind, trying to shave off seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, anything that he could have saved time, saved a life. Mindlessly, he took a paper cup off the top of the cooler and pressed the fill button. "God damn it," he said to himself. He downed the ice-cold water, spilling some over his cheeks and neck. His body sagged and fell against the wall. He looked back at the room, at the blur of the screen through the tears in his eyes. The smells from Maiden Wharf drifted over Ruth, who sat on a horizontal stack of concrete pillars in the abandoned construction site. dust from the emergency crews and vehicles bustling around her hung in the cooling evening air. She could still feel the warmth of the other woman's body dying in her arms from minutes before. Her hands, arms, and shoulders were pulled tense and vibrating in steady pulses. She had to close her eyes for a few seconds, but not long enough for anyone nearby to be concerned. A sharp intake of the harbour air brought some relaxation to her muscles. The prolonged bellow of a nearby ship's horn made her lift her gaze to the darkening sky above. She could just make out some of the lights above the surrounding warehouses and stark buildings, twinkling on like a handful of stars. The odours of oil and salt, diesel and fish, flashes of summer evenings from her childhood when her parents were still together, eating spring rolls on the Yacht Mall pier, had a pungent tinge to them. She unclenched her fists, trying to relax, unconsciously rubbing a thumb on the back of her other hand for comfort. She hadn't spoken to her mother in the past 3 weeks, since this case had taken over her days and nights. She couldn't call her mother now. Not about this. Theirs was a catch-up with small talk kind of relationship, and not Sulumi's daughter chasing a possible serial killer. Besides, retirement in the old fishing town of Hermanus was quiet and tranquil for her mother and stepfather, far from this kind of city. Right now, she needed to speak to someone who understood what she was going through. She held back the tears that were damming up behind her eyes as she drew another deep breath. Having grown up around Durban, she knew the tides, and it was probably going out, taking with it all the scum and muck dumped in the harbour that day. How did they end up in this part of the city? The chase seemed part of a distant lifetime. Yet only half an hour ago they had been driving through the Durban streets, Angel relaying coordinates, frantically trying to reach Liza Chapman in time. They had come so close to the killer, to Liza. An ambulance came to a dusty stop a few meters from her. The two EMTs were a blur as they jumped out and raced to the rear of the van. Someone yelled out to them from behind her as they wheeled the stretcher through the sand and gravel. They didn't need an ambulance. The red-handled emergency scissors protruded from one of her thigh compartments of her dark blue cargo pants, sharing space with the splinter forceps and latex gloves. Mirrored on her left thigh were the straight forceps, trauma shears, window punch, and Velcro tourniquet. She hadn't needed those today. She glanced at the flashing red lights of the ambulance. They didn't need the noise and commotion happening now. It was all too late. They had been too late. She hunched forward, arms folded on her lap, hands resting at her hips. The small solid bulk of her mobile unit in her right pocket reassured her. She tore at the Velcro flap, grasped the device, and said breathlessly, "Call Alan." So, I wanted something that just set up front the emotional experience of going through the chase, of being a tracker. It's physically and emotionally taxing on the team. Generally, they are dealing with souls and people that have died. So from Mark's point of view, he's exhausted, he's frustrated with no communication from one of his lead trackers, Ruth. And so he's frustrated with that situation, he's frustrated with himself, he's second guessing everything. And then for him being in the screen room, in the room of ours, he's watching that soul moving on. You know, it's for them, it's more of a finality. You know, somebody comes across a dead body, that's their existence. But for the tracker team and for Mark watching the screen, he can just see that, you know, going on further on. That life has ended, but the soul's carrying on somewhere else. So for him, there's more to the death experience. And so for Ruth, at the crime scene, she was so close. She was holding Liza in her arms and talking to her. One of the things that Ruth does, which I mentioned in the story, is that she talks a person, even if they've just died and they're not able to hear her, she's talking that soul through the soul journey. And so that's something that she feels deeply about. I mention in the book the process that the Tibetans use in the Book of the Dead, getting that soul ready for that journey. So it's not just a case of, okay, I've failed at saving this person, it's how can she help that person through the other side. So there's a lot of emotion for her, and she needs that time just to be with herself, process everything that's happened, and she doesn't need people, and that's why the commotion that's happening around is very jarring for her. And so right at the end of that scene, the only person that she can share that experience with is with her husband, Alan, and she's about to make that call. So I hope you enjoyed that scene. I'll do a couple of more readings, but as I said in the beginning, the paperback is out, which is exciting. Although I get my ebooks, I love the experience of opening a new book or old book, the smell, the touch. So it's going to be exciting to actually pick up my own book. Right, so hope you enjoyed that. Follow me and check out Guardbridge.